Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Welcome to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. Yes, I am thrilled to be with you guys today. When you start doing triathlons, let's say in 2016, and you realize that you want to make impact and make change, my guest today said, hey, I got something for the industry and I'm gonna shake it up and disrupt some things. And let me tell you, he and his company are doing just that. I know you're interested in knowing who I'm talking about, but don't fret. I'm going to give you some juice and let me see if you can figure it out. He started doing multisports around 2015 while doing his first race in Chicago, Illinois. Captivated by athleticism, endurance, and display of ethic of participants, he decided to get involved the best way he knew how. 60 races later, he found himself embedded in the sport and cycling lifestyle like never before he could have even imagined. The love and appreciation for what athletics has brought into his life was something that he vowed to share with as many people as possible. And let me just tell you, Soj Jibowu is doing just that. Yes, I have Soj Jibowu with Varlo Apparel. Yes, I do. I said sports because of course you think of them as a sports company because they are a sports company. They just make us look real good, real fast, and we be stylish out there in them streets. So Soj, welcome to Try Beginner's Luck. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mashonda. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for being with me today. As you can tell, I am tongue twisted and tied, and it happens. And I'm going to let it stand because you know what? Mistakes are beautiful because they help us to grow. So I'm just going to keep it in there and just excited to welcome you and excited to learn more about you, your journey, and you trying beginner's luck with starting an apparel company that is booming. Okay. Y'all are making waves.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. So I appreciate it.
So tell me, okay, so you go to your first triathlon in 2015, you enter the sport into 2016. This is very new for you. You're not even in the game. I don't want to do it wrong, Matt. I'm just going to say under 10 years yet.
Yeah.
What was it like for you when you first entered the sport? What were some of the things going through your mind?
It was, triathlon, it's intimidating because it's, I remember when I first saw my first race in Chicago, I remember seeing the athletes, they dove into Lake Michigan. I didn't know people could swim that fast. I didn't know that many people in the world knew how to swim because I didn't grow up swimming. And just seeing the athletes and just being so captivated by them. And, my background was, I was a 400 runner, for those that are old school, the 440 runner. And I had some wheels. I was a 46 second guy. But I remember seeing individuals get off the bike and sprinting at this ITU race and just being like, oh my goodness, this is the real deal. I gotta try this out. I gotta see what's up. And just been in love with it ever since.
Wow. So you were impressed with what was happening. You said you didn't grow up swimming. So did you have to learn how to swim or you knew enough functional or technical swim strokes to get by? But how was that swim transition? Because a lot of our viewers and listeners, they struggle with the swim.
Yeah. So, no, there's nothing technical about my swim capabilities. If you pushed me into the deep end of the pool, I would survive and grab the hand, get back, get out. But I wasn't a good swimmer. Matter of fact, I remember learning to swim. I was obsessed. And from my condo in Philadelphia, I would walk to the gym that had a pool. And this story kind of will express or explain just how new I was. When I would swim back and forth, I didn't have a fancy Garmin watch or anything. I had a bag of pennies, and I would keep a bag of pennies at one end of the pool. And I would, once I got to the other end of the pool, I would just move one penny to the other side. and that was a lap. Like I was like, oh, I did a lap. So every 2 days or 3 days, it was literally how many pennies could I move to one side of the pool, and I don't know, that was it. And so eventually graduated, got to a nicer watch, and that changed everything. And but just learned a lot of learning.
Okay, so here. We're not even talking about 1940s with these pennies. We're talking about 2016. Whoa.
I didn't know any better.
Whoa. I'm sorry. You're taking me back now. I'm like, wow, pennies. Let's talk about that. Because I need to, for someone who's listening, who's curious like me, they're going to be like, you got a penny. How did you swim with this penny? Was it like this
no,
or like
no?
How did you swim with the penny?
I kept the pennies all at one end of the pool, and so I would swim to one end, go to the other end, and when I got to the other end where the pennies were at, I would get up and I'd move one penny to the other side. And so I never carried them with me, but it was like bean counting, because when you're swimming laps, you forget, you forget count and stuff like that. And that was the only way I could actually remember, like remember like how many laps I did, because I didn't know meters and yards. I didn't know any of that stuff. So it was the bag of pennies, the bag of pennies.
Yeah. That to me is the most hilarious thing ever.
Yeah.
And I must say, it's ingenious as well, because even with a Garmin watch or a Wahoo Rival or whatever awesome watches that are out now, even with those watches, you still can lose count. Yeah, and you're not thinking about it. So the pennies are, the pennies were ingenious, and I wouldn't have thought of doing that, but you took me back. Like this was like antiquated back, like way back. But that's okay. And I think that's what's interesting about our stories, because they matter, and how we thought of to getting to the destination is just like the best way we have, and we use the resources we had. And for you, it was a bag of pennies that I would never forget. I would never forget. You need to put a bag of pennies in your office so that you can remember the start of your journey was a bag.
We're gonna come up with like a kit one day, and we're gonna come up with like a clever name and an homage to the bag of pennies. That's what we're gonna.
I love it. The bag of pennies. That is so. Yeah. So brilliant. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Anyway, see, I took myself out of everything because the pennies took me all the way out, but I think that's good. So you're in this journey, you realize that you love it. So beyond not having the fancy watch, did you have a bike? We know you're a runner and you're actually lightning fast, but biking, how was that transition for you?
Biking was hard because, if you're running doesn't necessarily translate over to cycling at all. And so there was a lot of nuances to learn. I remember I was with a group in Philly, and I would go to like, we'd do like these indoor training sessions, and I had to learn about power and watts and keeping your power and watts. And I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. And it was just so difficult. I mean, I'll never forget this, my first FTP test, I think I did like 125 watts or something, my first FTP test. It was terrible, but it was new. But I think, but I think that's the beauty of like the sport. It's definitely the beauty of like the athletes, the community, even like the ethos of the brand that we've built. It's understanding that, and understanding that there are probably more athletes in triathlon that fit that profile, where they're new, they're probably middle of the pack, they're early adopters, they're power trainers, they're coming in. There's probably more volume of athletes that fit that profile than the athletes that are hyper driven by aerodynamics, hyper driven by fancy watches and a scheduled meal prep plan. Not that anything's wrong with that, but as a brand, I think we definitely focus on that balance of making sure we're speaking to the athletes that are new, the athletes that are kind of again middle of the pack athletes, but then also we're keeping true to some of the tested functionality of products. So yeah, so loads of fun.
Okay. I love how you segue into the brand, but before we get all the way over there, because there is some similarities that I want to pull out about you starting in the industry and then starting in triathlons and now disrupting triathlons with the apparel brand. But I want to dig more into your athletic background.
Mm.
You started doing triathlons. Your first FTP test was 125, which you think is horrible, but that's somebody else's great. I mean, come on. But what I really love is that your mindset around the sport. What was one of the things that you had to overcome while participating in this sport?
I think the humility of like starting all over, being new, being okay, getting like the chuckles, like the person that comes out of the water like so last that it's like last, like people have already left, like it's okay, because when you go from you're I don't know, you're a podium D1 athlete, you have school records, you have conference records, and then you go into a sport where you're brand new and you're starting completely all over again, and you're not the fastest, you're not the whatever. There's definitely some humility there. So that was something that I definitely overcame, but overcame fast, because you like anything, it's okay to start all over. It's okay to start from the bottom and move on up.
You started from the bottom, now you're here. Hey.
That's how it works. Those are the best stories are when you start from the bottom and then that's where the story's built. That's where
Absolutely.
The story and all the fun times, that's where it all happens.
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you heard this, but I did. But D1 athlete with school records literally saying it's okay to start over with a new sport. So again, we're here at Try Beginner's Luck because I love this sport. As you can see, Soj loved this sport, so many of our other guests love this sport. If you don't know everything, it's okay. That's why we're here. We're here to share these stories so that the trials and the tribulations of those who've come before you, to encourage you to get out there and try, no matter what level you're at, whether you can run really fast or you can't, whether you have to walk a race or you have to figure out a way to push yourself through a race. There's room for you in this sport. And I just want you to know, whether you used to be a D1 athlete or a D-no athlete, you belong here with triathlons, and there's space and room for you. Tell us about a fun memory after you've gotten yourself acquainted with the sport. Give us a fun memory of you participating in triathlon.
I think a lot of my fun memories are they're laughable memories. They're memories where I was like, my fun memories are memories where I was laughing at myself. I remember one time I went to La Jolla, and I was it was my first time doing a race on the West Coast. And I remember I did everything to get ready. It was with the Challenge Athletes Foundation. They had this big event, and it was I think that event was probably like my best thing period, because the way we did it is I went and got donations. People could donate to the Challenge Athletes Foundations, but at the right before the race, what I did is I took everyone's name that donated, and I wrote their names on their first and last name, big marker, with on a 8x11 cardstock paper. And so throughout that weekend of the trip, because it's not just a race, there's CAF events, whether you're doing tennis clinics, running clinics, whatever. I would, with the athletes, I would take pictures with each person that donated their names, so they could also be there, right? And so at the end of the weekend, I put together this montage video clip, so that way each person that donated could see where they could also be there, right? They could be in the moment. But getting back to making fun of myself, one of my, I think that was probably my moment where I was like, oh my God, this is everything. This is awesome. But I think one of my moments that I laugh at myself, my first time racing on the West Coast, and I remember getting ready. I was doing all the stuff you do pre-check, make sure everything is good. And then I remember hearing this noise like in the background. And I was like, what is that? And I was like, kept hearing like, I was like, what is that noise? And then finally, everyone's like, oh, let's get ready for the swim start. And so everyone goes and there's this cliff and there's like sea lions near the swim start. And I don't mean like just like, oh, like a little like big, huge sea lions. And I was like, we're swimming with those? And I was like, I'm not doing that. I can't do that. Like, no, like, you know, I like if like a piece of like a seaweed touches me or a log touches me, I freak out. Like, I can't swim with like something that's 4 times my size. Like, I can't do that. And luckily for me, the waves had escalated to a point where they just ended up canceling the swim. I would have had like I couldn't have, I don't know, but that part caught me off guard. But that's, again, it's something that I laugh myself about. You definitely, you can't take the sport's a sport where you can find yourself taking it so seriously because of all the dedication that it takes to have, but you also can't take it too serious. You have to sit back, you have to laugh, you have to enjoy it, make sure you're enjoying it. And that's the one where I could sit back and go, oh my goodness, like yeah, because if you would have saw my face, you would have definitely understood where I was at with everything.
I don't even have to see your face to understand where you were at, because I probably wouldn't have gotten in with any sea lions, more or less. Well, anyway, I'm having flashbacks of jellyfish, and then those little things compared to sea lions, I would have been out. I would have been like, thank you all for all who have given to me. I appreciate you, but I'm done.
And I remember someone was trying to calm me down and they were like, oh, like they don't do nothing, they're harmless. Like all they do is they bark at you. Like they'll come up and they'll be like, you'll hear them barking at you. And I was like, like,
okay, enough of the animals. I'm gonna move on from the animals because I'm having like moments here.
Yeah,
but no, that is so hilarious, and I love it. So tell me, what now is your favorite leg of the sport?
My favorite leg of the sport is probably, I've mentally conditioned myself to love the swim. Yeah. So, and I think that's more so of like, starting off, it was like my biggest deficiency. It still is. It's not like where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so amazing at the swim, but I've mentally taught myself to enjoy it, to look forward to it. Even though it's not what I'm great at. I'm not a natural swimmer or nothing like that, but you know, it's fun to me. I've learned to enjoy it, and it's fun. And I don't know. You would think it'd be the run, but by the time I'm on the run, my legs don't work. So,
like so many of us others.
Exactly. So that's that.
Okay, so what's your least favorite leg of the race?
I probably would say like, oh gosh, least favorite? Probably the run. Like, I think so, because, you know, I think the run, because for myself, I should be a good runner. I should, you know, it's something I should be great at. But by the time I get to the run, it's difficult because depending on what event you're doing, what scale of the event you're doing, whether it's a sprint to a half, so much of it then becomes like about your nutrition. And that's one of the things that I've still just had to, I'm still learning nutrition. I'm still learning how to make sure I'm fueling appropriately. So by the time I'm on the run, I'm not, I'm functional, I should say. Right. So I'd probably say the run.
Okay. So now transitioning, you're this athlete and you notice something is different. And you decide to try beginner's luck all over again, but instead, not just trying in the athletic form, but in the apparel form. Let's talk about that transition, and how did you know that you wanted to start an apparel company? And try specifically.
Yeah. So I've always been partial to the apparel space. I've always been a fan of like the whole, you know, I've read like Shoe Dog like a gazillion times, up and down, left and right. I've been to the Nike World headquarters a handful of times, literally to be a fan, like just to go and observe and watch and look and touch and, you know, just to see the history of, the whole Bill Bowerman story, the whole, Blue Ribbon story of the brand. And I think I never actually sought out to say, hey, I'm going to create a brand. I don't know if that was what I sought out for, because I think maybe like a lot of anything, if you start off with this grand thing, it may be too big to swallow, right? And too big to pursue. For me, it was starting off like with just some questions and slowly getting around to, okay, hey, how would you, if you did get into the sports apparel space, what sport would you get into? And I started doing the research with triathlon, and I started doing research on the market. I started doing research on just everything. Like I was obsessed. I would go into just data analytics and just research everything I could about the global apparel market, the landscape. I even in Philadelphia, I actually even would search like colleges of design, and Drexel University. I'll never forget Jacqueline Kilmartin. That was like however many years ago, but she invited me to come in and just literally walk around the department. And I would ask questions about fabric composition because I knew nothing about fabric composition. I knew nothing about GSM. I knew nothing about stitching, and just learn. And so, so there was that. But once it started, it kind of snowballed. But I will say about like my background. So before even apparel and getting into this space, I wasn't in apparel before, but I love the idea of studying. I love the idea of understanding. I studied biomedical science and chemistry in college. I worked in the med device space and marketing, product introductions to the market space, cross functionality with R&D. So I've always enjoyed that part of things, but I've always loved obviously the athletic space just so much more that, it stuck. It's definitely stuck.
I think that it's so cool that it did stick, because now your quest for answers has now launched and propelled you into a brand that is so welcoming to all.
Yep.
And I think that's what I love about Varlo. But one of the things that you mentioned was you sought out going to Drexel and you learned about fabrics, you learned about the stitching, the GSM. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the fabric of the clothes that you have, because they are very nice. If I'm not mistaken, it's Italian. Hold on, let me get it right. Like Swiss Italian infused. Let's talk about this infusion.
Yeah. There's a few different fabrics. So, one of the things like looking at just articles of clothing, like if you look at a tri-suit and you look at like the body paneling on a tri-suit, each panel has a different functionality. So the panel on the chest is different than the side panel, which is different than the back panel, is different than the arm panel, because of what the functionality is for the athlete. So if you're a cyclist, the fabric that you're going to have on your chest is going to be different than on your back, because you want to keep the body cool. So you'll have maybe something denser on the chest, and then something that can dissipate heat on the back. That's very porous on the back. So between like European, Swiss, Italian, French fabrics, there's where the quality is just going to be where it needs to be. And then the GSM is just like the thickness of the fabric. But like when we look at areas of the body where, there's going to be a lot of movement, friction, such as the lower portion of the body, higher GSM fabrics, the sublimation holds better, the color's better, it retains better. But then also it adheres to friction so much better. So it just, you know, it's a no-brainer. But those are all things that you learn. Like you learn, you become a student to them, and then you kind of take it from there.
I love it. So we have this Italian and Swiss fabric that is crafted with French techniques. And I'll just say, I've had an opportunity to, Saj and I have talked before in the past, because I was like, look, I want a uniform that I can wear. And as a full figure woman, there's not really many brands that can hold true to that. Like they have the sizes, but the fits are really uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And so I won a jersey, and I put on the jersey because it was medium. It wasn't my right size, but the 4-way stretch was real. And so here I model. So I know fabric, I know quality. I know. I mean, I even know like what I like to purchase. Okay. And I was wowed after putting on your jersey and said, this is truly the future. Like I felt good. And, you know, part of when we are performing and when we're racing, we want to feel good. Mm-hmm. But we also want to look good, because that affects our confidence, which affects how we ultimately perform. So I just want to say kudos to you. Not that I'm putting a plug out, because Varlo has not given me a dime. Okay.
It's, you know what? It's, I take this back to my, like back in the day, like when we would, you know, in pharmaceuticals or med device, you're, you know, in one company in particularly, I was the product manager, product introduction guy for, you know, thermocooled devices. And then with this other company, I was doing MRI guided linear accelerators. So these are like $10 million systems to a hospital. And, you know, and that's just for the bunker of the device. But one of the rules that I would explain to reps and I would explain to our team is that when you meet with customers, you only have one time to get it right. And the customer reception happens once they see your product, once they see it online, but the intangible side of it is so important. And I compare it to like, if you get out of an Audi and you close the door of an Audi, right? You feel the weight from your hand as the door, you know, gives you negative pressure, right? And then you hear the thump when it closes. All those little sensors tell you, oh, this is a quality product. And so it's the same way with the product. Once you get it at, you know, to your house and you open it out of the garment bag and then you feel it and you start to touch it and then you hold it up and you look at it, there's so many things that just matter. And where as customers or human beings, however you want to state it, we're picking up on all those things. Mm-hmm. So it's just so important that the quality is right, because as a new brand, you got one time, you got one time to get it right, you know? So you have to make sure it's right.
And it is right. And I just want to say kudos from your generosity to how you give back to the community, the way that it fits, the way it feels. You've thought about all of the details, and that's what matters. And that's what sets great brands apart from just good brands. And so I'm excited to see where Varlo is going. I know this is just the tip of the iceberg. The future is bright. The future is forward. Oh my God, is this some part? I feel like this is a part of some of your brand language.
I was like, hold on, where do you get this?
I know, but here's the deal. It just like, it rolled off of my head because I don't have a script in front of me.
Yeah.
It literally just rolled off. But I think I want to say it just confirms what I'm hearing and saying right now of where this brand is going. You haven't even seen you haven't even seen the magnitude of how you're going to shake up apparel in general. And swimming, cycling, triathlon is just the peak.
Yeah. It's
football.
I really,
there's I see it.
I really appreciate that. I think like I know like with my partners and I, when we're working, like we're so like head down and just go. And it's like, did this get done? Did this get done? And we're just, everything is head down. that we rarely get to put our heads up and like look around and go, okay, what's happening? And so when we do get to put our head up and it's like, oh, like that happened or that happened, it's refreshing. It's like it's the verification, like the validation that you need, because it's what helps you keep going. It's what makes you go, okay, we'll keep trying, or it's working, right? So it's definitely appreciated to hear.
Oh, for sure. And so I want to segue even into, because again, like you said earlier, and this is probably when we were just on talking before we started the interview, but we are such a new company and we're growing so fast. But the fact that you tried something, you believed in a brand, and you see how it's taken off so well, you've now added another component, and that's a team. You have a
Oh
team
yeah,
of
yeah,
people.
yeah.
And I want to spend some time talking about this team because I think it's important for people to hear about why you have a team and why it's so important.
Yeah. You know, when we started we tossed around the idea of a team like when we first launched, and we said, we don't think we're ready yet, because you know, we don't want to just have a team and just say, okay, you know, here's a team and here's what it is, and you can get discounts, and you know, we're going to give you apparel. That was like the basis of what any team is, like, you know, or what any team does. It was kind of like, well, how can we go beyond that? What else can we do to make sure we're giving value? As the brand, one of the big things that I put like so much emphasis on, and I just make sure we're always hitting that button, is like, are we giving value? Are we giving value? Is the cut, are we giving value? If we're not giving value, then what are we doing? And so with our team, it was, what do we do? What can we present? What can we give to make sure that all athletes, they feel like they're part of a community? Obviously, they feel empowered. Obviously, they have a collective body. Yes, but then what can we do to aid them in development? Because as athletes, we're always looking for development. I remember in track and field in the collegiate years, you were always constantly looking for, how do you develop? How do you get faster? How do you get wiser? How do you have better understanding of the sport? And then also on top of that, you know, how do you assure that the people to your left and right are always kind of like fostering that? So for us, it was, you're not just having a team where everyone dressed alike and everyone, you know, got to take cool pictures and stuff like that, but you know, we incorporated an athlete development program where we have coaches that give, you know, training plans to our athletes. So we have a USAT level 2, level 3 coach, Reggie Waller, Justin Trolet, that are just top down gold standard educators in the space. We have Vanessa Forrester, who provides mental endurance clinics to our athletes, because so much of it is, only so much is physical. The rest of it is what's going on here. And so that's also important. And in our space with triathlon, as I mentioned earlier, it's easy to get so wrapped up in the sport that you put all this pressure on yourself because you've been training for all these hours and you have this magical event that's coming up that you know, that you're looking forward to, but you want to make sure that this part is okay. So we've incorporated mental endurance clinics, and also we have a team camp, where at our team camp, it's more so not just for training to say, hey, let's see who can get the most elevation, and you know, let's get down there and check our heart rate and see who has, you know, whatever. It's that part is it exists, but also for like the social environment of like collaborative thinking, social engagement, growing and fostering together. Because, you know, you got to remember, as the owner, I came into the sport and didn't know anything. I was the penny guy. So we have to make sure we have a team where that can be fostered, where those athletes, when they come on board, they're in a setting where it's okay to be the penny guy. No matter if you were a Division I, college, whatever, blah, 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 it's okay to be at a base, right? So I don't know. I think it's working. I think again, give value. I think it's doing what it needs to do, and we're just really excited because the athletes that are a part of it, we're doing it for them. It's what we do for them, and it's the ultimate reward to see some of the comments that we get. So
I love, but I also love the fact that you didn't forget where you started and how you want to incorporate that. And I think that's so important because sometimes we can lose the where, lose how.
yep.
And you haven't forgotten that and you're incorporating that. And I think that is going to help to make your team successful because this is the first year that you've had a team of ambassadors, right?
Yeah, so our first year we had an ambassador program, and that was it was that program was a program that was just hey, do you want to be a Varlo ambassador when we first started, right? And this is the first year that we've had like a proper team like registered under USA Triathlon, and we have the whole everything. And I didn't even mention we have like a development part of our functionality where some because we do work this with some of our collaborative partners, because some of our athletes are developmental athletes. They are athletes who are they're either new to the sport, they're athletes that are promising to the sport, and how do we make sure that those athletes are in the sport, they have access, they have the ability to compete, they have the ability to toe the line, because we understand some of the barriers to the sport, but we also understand that the sport will get better. The sport will become more attractive. The sport will become more competitive. The sport will become more fruitful if we have more people into the sport, because there's untapped potential that I still think the triathlon just has. It's still a young sport. Triathlon's like 40 plus years old. I mean, that's my dad's older than that. So like, I mean, I'm almost that age, right? So there's so much to the sport that stones haven't even been turned yet. So yeah, absolutely.
And with that said, you mentioned development league, but I also know just by following Varlo story on Instagram and social media that you guys are also raising up some beginners.
Yeah. Definitely. With some of our athletes, it's bring on board athletes that are they're in the early stages, right? And again, it's about making sure that because I don't know, I believe it full-fledged that oftentimes it's not that there's talent, and of course there's talent because this person's talented, they've had opportunities, they can do XYZ, but then there's also opportunity in individuals who are new and that they need the opportunity. I mean, that's just I don't know, that's one of those things that gets me emotionally wrapped up, because I understand that opportunity is everything. I, whoever, it's all based on opportunity. Opportunity exists because people who are hungry, people who are looking or searching with opportunity, those individuals are limitless. So for those athletes, yes, we will be here because the opportunity has to exist. And I don't know, again, I get like I can with that one, but big deal to me. So
Opportunities are limitless when you're presented with that. And so with that, I would love to talk to these young ladies because I think it's important to hear their starting version and then when they finish. So we'll coordinate that offline, but I know that would be great because, there are three young ladies and the potential is there and you've provided them the opportunity. So
absolutely. And they're an inspiration. They're kind of the spearheads of what's new, right? When you think of like the sport and you think of where the sport's going to be, you need people to start. You need people to kind of say, hey, this is something that we're going to do, because we all are only capable of doing what we can see. And so you need spearheaders, you need pioneers, you need people who can kind of like lead the way. And then, you know, once you see that, you know, there's people like me that are going to go, yes, let me help you do that. Let me be as resourceful as I can. And so there are 3 athletes that are based in Connecticut that are kind of starting something, and we'll definitely have to circle back and discuss more with them and see how their journey goes as with all that's coming.
Well, I'm ready and I'm excited. And with that said, thank you, Soj, for being a pioneer. I like to brag on my guests. So thank you for being a pioneer. Thank you for being a visionary. And thank you for being inquisitive and wondering, how can we have a different type of apparel company? I appreciate the ingenuity of what you're doing, and just wish you guys all the success. I mean, for crying out loud, you guys have been on the cover of Philadelphia Business Journal. That's major.
Yeah.
And you've been voted as the best athletic apparel brand, and you guys are still in your infancy stage. So just imagine where the future holds.
Yeah.
It's there for you guys to grab it. So I'm so excited. So thank you again so much, Soj, for being with us. I know we're a little short on time, and I have one more short segment. It's called Rapid Fire. We have our guests go through Rapid Fire. So the first thing you think about is the answer. You don't have to think too hard. It's all there. Okay. All right. Go-to workout.
Go-to workout. Rower.
Okay. Audiobook, podcast, music, or silence when you train?
Audio book.
Okay. Favorite apparel brand?
Varlo.
Did you have to think? He was like, man, I wanted to throw you off on that one. No. Where's your favorite place to bike?
Philadelphia, MLK. Yeah, Philadelphia, the MLK loop.
Okay. What's your favorite distance?
Half. No, excuse me. 70. Olympic.
Olympic. Is it half or is it the Olympic?
It's definitely Olympic. It's definitely Olympic. I like that. The speed side of me, like the speed guy, is like all Olympic. Like.
Okay, but then there's a more laid back side that likes the 70.3.
Yeah, the laid back side is like, let's take our time with it.
So I'm going to say both because I feel like you were torn between that. So we'll say Olympic and we'll say the half distance. Wonderful. Pee on the bike or take a proper pee break?
Proper pee break.
I'm done. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. Remember, when you try, you always win. And Soj, we'll have to have you back on because I feel like there's more that we can uncover about you and your Varlo sport. So thank you guys so much and have a beautiful day, everybody. I'm Mashonda and I'm out. Peace.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try Beginner's Luck, you always win.